it'd be helpful for your listeners then to just understand why we think Solana is superior. Because in the end of the day, it's a bet on Solana's future. And for why would they pick SolStrategies over other, vehicles is a leveraged bet that we're building something great in Solana, and therefore a more sophisticated bet on its future. But in its basis, it's an investor feeling bullish on Solana, right? So that's where it comes down to. And so I think it'll be helpful for Max to talk about why we're bullish Solana. But to your first question, and this is the most annoying answer under the sun, but you come from capital markets. Fortunately, unfortunately, it's price discovery. So as of right now, investors are willing to pay that premium. So, and especially for our stock, we've had a premium to NAV since our strategy launched. But that's where we then really hit the rallying call on our first earnings in January 28th, our fiscal year is September 30th, of you can't compare us just to NAV, right? But again, prior to that, people only did. And there was that premium. But to your point, there was no other vehicles. And in the end of the day, wherever a market is set, a market is set. Now, the question is, can it maintain that premium, right? And that's where I think that the other treasury vehicles are going to have issues in the future, because as more vehicles come out and they try to compete against us, right, as an actual company, then I think premiums compress. But in the end of the day, yes, that's always the question. Oh my gosh, that premium is overblown. But then you step back and you say, oh, but they're still trading at that level. And there's a lot of volume and there's a lot of participants. So to be honest, it's a tough argument for, I think, a lot of investors, institutional investors, to make for short-term investment horizon, because there's such a healthy market for all these companies right now. But to your point, what's the long-term strategy? That will compress. There's no treasury vehicle that's going to be able to compete with a spot ETF, a staked spot ETF in the US, a company like ours that actually has, revenue. So I think that that's going to compress. So what's been interesting, it hasn't been retail. I haven't pitched retail ever. I'm on podcasts, but I have 2 investor calls tomorrow. It's institutional allocators. It's the top shops. It's the family offices. It's the ETF allocators and portfolio managers. And for the most part, they come from either the mining world and they're comfortable with small cap mining, or they already have Bitcoin ETFs and allocation to Bitcoin. And their question is, what should I do next? And that starts the conversation. Now, what happens next for me is I need to explain why Solana, right? In the end of the day, they have their allocation of Bitcoin, and or they want a more leveraged bet now that Bitcoin has normalized in a certain way. It was their volatile alpha, and maybe it's not enough alpha for what they allocated their, let's say, 1% of the portfolio of a more risky portfolio to. So end of the day, it starts with education. Then I try to explain the company. I get some glassed over, eyes when I try to explain validators and the intricacies of the network. But everyone seems to understand and believe that Solana is the best bet and is moving away from Ethereum. So I'm seeing mainly investors with Bitcoin and Solana, that their interest levels are, and that they'll allocate to us. And that's also why we're being allocated in some of the ETF portfolios, and or early Bitcoin mining investors who still hold, let's say, CleanSpark Marathon, and they see us also akin to that story, and they want to get in early to that. And that's also an easy narrative to discuss. So that's how those conversations go. End of the day, they have to be bullish Solana. Otherwise, they're not interested in us. And that's fantastic, because that's the way that we structure the company.